Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special edition of the Albion Obsessed podcast. Today, we are joined by the founder of Mental Health United, and we're eagerly anticipating chatting to him about just what Mental Health United is all about. So, Tim, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm all good, thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. Really excited to talk about the project. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, man, it's a real pleasure to have you on, mate. It's something that I think, especially the three of us, we high in such high esteem and hold it in such high esteem. And mental health. We've been on the show many times and we've talked about how important it is. So it's really fantastic to have you on the show today, mate. And we also welcome back the man, the myth, the legend. Some say Kurtis, friend. Kurtis, mate, how are you?
Very good, very warm, but isn't everybody? So I'll stop complaining.
It is British summertime. It's what we do. And Joe, you've just been sat in that chair for the last 24 hours, haven't you, mate?
I've been sat here since we started, mate. Last August. Yeah. They had to move me in when we moved to Littlehampton. I just stayed here. Yeah, and they just
did the movers just sort of scoop you up and stick
yeah,
you
they just put me in the corner and then just left me here until you send me a link to do one of these things. So yeah, I'm here for it.
Good skills, mate. Well, it's good to have you on the show today because I know, Joe, that we'll get onto it a bit later. You're a huge part of the Warriors, the club that you've been work so closely with, and I know we will chat about that a bit later. Tim, mate, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to start grilling you about Mental Health United because, as I say, it's something that I've got a huge amount of respect for. We talked about in our last podcast episode about how important mental health is, and not to get too down about everything, but we talked about how, especially for men, mental health can be a very taboo subject. It can be something that we're not supposed to talk about, and perhaps that is the reason why, unfortunately, that suicide is such a big killer of young men. So when you came up with the idea, how did that come to you? Was it something that was born out of, say, like lockdown when people were like stressing about not getting out? How did the idea about it all come to you?
So it kind of came about because my own personal journey to begin with. Like through my 20s, felt in a really good place, and then hit my 30s, and life just started getting a little bit more difficult. And I was living over in Kent and had this idea of like, let's form a football team around this and try and raise a few pounds for local charities. And then some changes happened in my life again, which meant we were going to be moving house. So then I paused on the idea because I didn't want to start something and then have to leave a year in. Like, it just felt kind of wrong. And then the pandemic hit, and it was just like, so it never really kind of got off the ground for a while. But it was the actual concept of what is now Mental Health United was really born over a long Christmas break where I had a bit of downtime from work during the pandemic. And it was like, right, when this pandemic thing ends, which we all thought was going to be 3 months later, let's find a way to connect people and actually get this project off the ground.
Yeah, mate, that's yeah. Go on then, Joe. Sorry, you unmuted and I went to.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, because obviously Lancing Warriors and Mental Health United have joined forces, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But mine was born out of the last lockdown that we had, and luckily from there, no other lockdowns got in the way of it. So in comparison, we had a pretty smooth ride. So I can imagine when you had those ideas and they were being stalled, was there ever a point where you didn't think it would happen?
The only one point did I think this wouldn't happen, and it was like we went from December to like April, May was when our first session was, and then the first session happened, and there was me, a guy I already played football with, and just 2 others turned up, and I was like, great, I built this up for 4 months in my head, and there are 4 of us here, and I definitely had that moment of like, damn, maybe this just isn't gonna happen. But those 2 who came along came back the next week, and they had told a couple more. So 4 became 6, and 6 became 10. And yeah, like I think from like session 3 or 4, there was never really like a looking back.
Yeah, definitely. And why was it so important for you you mentioned your own personal journey. Was it so important to you that a club like this actually existed, and you just kept persevering, and now what it is today is a credit to you? But why was it so important that you just kept going?
So I've certainly noticed in my own mental health when I've been able to do sport activities, whether it be football or other hobbies, like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, I end up in like a much better place. And as the project started to grow, I realized that that's the same for many people. And I actually all my life have played Sunday league football, and what I very quickly realized was there isn't really a place for everyone to play football. Like if you go to a Sunday league team, it's very exclusive. Like you're good enough or you're not good enough. You're the best player in that position or you're not the best player. And if you're not that person, then you're discarded. And then you're a bit like, okay, now what do I do? And so through Mental Health United, we've had a collection of people who, some have never kicked a ball before. Some are like 55, 60 and can't really move as much as they used to, but they are treated exactly the same as anyone else. So I think that was a real reason why I was kind of like, okay, I've got to keep doing this, because some people don't have anywhere else to play football.
Yeah, that inclusivity is such an important factor. And I know that over the last few years, like for myself, my brother-in-law, he often goes and plays Sunday league football. And I've always sort of gone, oh, I'd love to go to training, to have a kickabout, but I'm not good enough. Because I haven't kicked a ball since I was like a teenager, not properly. So having the idea that there's an inclusive club that anyone from any age, from any ability can go to and spend time. And I definitely agree with you, Tim, what you say about how exercise is such an important part of it's most definitely my mental health journey. I always found that because I used to run a lot, when the weeks that I ran, they were the weeks that I felt really positive, and it was the weeks that I didn't run or I wasn't as active that I used to get quite down about stuff, especially during the tough times that were locked down. So I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and it's really important. And sometimes I think that activity is can play such a huge part in helping people's mental health. Definitely.
So Tim, I understand there's a lot of like moving parts to all of this, but how did you go about setting up something like this? What did that take?
So there was a little bit of putting my own money on the line to begin with. So I wanted to make sure that Mental Health United was the club that I would want to go along to. So that meant not playing on really, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, I probably won't, but on really low quality council pitches, for example. So my first port of call was finding facilities. And we found Hove Park, the Russell Martin Foundation pitches down there. And I put my neck on the line and made a couple of bookings and thinking, okay, like we'll see if someone comes along. And because I just moved to the area, I didn't really know anyone. But my job, I work in like online advertising. So I spent, I don't know, a little bit of cash running Facebook ads, trying to target people in the Brighton area who are interested in football, like try to make that really sort of focused. And yeah, got a few advert responses, and that was literally how we kind of placed those first seeds.
Incredible. And we've spoken about obviously the start of it. You said 4 people turned up and a few doubts set in your mind. The journey from then to now, obviously I've been to a few of the Mental Health United ones, and we've joined up and things like that. The journey has just been unreal, and it's been great to watch it from last year when we first got in contact, Tim, when I started my one. So what has that journey been like for you? Like, I'm sure there's been so many highs and lows.
Yeah, so I recall doing an interview similar time last year. I think it was with the Sussex FA, where I was kind of like, okay, like what does success look like in, like, it felt like the very distant future. And that was like, we'd love to be able to book out Hove Park. So we were only booking like one five-a-side pitch, and now, to fill that pitch was 3 five-a-side pitches, or 6-a-side. We squeezed a few extra people in. And I was like, that's the big, like, audacious goal. Like, that's what we're heading towards. And before we knew it, we were booking up sessions and having waiting lists. And every week we have like 30 plus people at Hove, and then the demand was like, oh, can we get another session each week? And I was like, okay, like, let's try and find another pitch. And so we went from this goal of hoping to fill one place to, we now have like 2 sessions a week. So on Tuesdays we're at Hove Park, and on Thursdays we're at Sussex FA or Lancing FC on the 3G there. And yeah, it was kind of like all of a sudden it kind of jumped from this 4 people to 12 people to now, combined with Lancing Warriors, we're hosting, I don't know, 50 to 60, maybe even 70 people on our busiest weeks playing football, which, like, the journey has just like been an absolute rocket.
Incredible. So Tim, what's like the next step, I suppose, then? Because, you know, you've gone from, as you say, that massive journey between, like, I suppose 4 people to 60, 70 people now. So, like, where do you, as founder of Mental Health United, go now?
Yeah, I think that there are many areas. Like, we've never really run the sessions. We refer to them as football therapy, but that doesn't mean that we ask people to come along and stand and talk about their problems and whatever. The idea is you come and play football, and for that 1 hour while you're playing, you forget about things. Areas that we're hoping to improve is trying to work with more providers outside of football. So when we have members who need a little bit more support, can we get more, not in-house counseling services, but certainly like better services that they can get access to. And the other arm of what we do is fundraising. So in our first year, I think we raised, I don't know, it was like £2,000 for charity. Like, the goal for this year is to raise £6,000. So what's the goal for next year? Maybe £10,000, etc., etc. So can we raise more money and actually support those essential services that people really need? So we work in partnership with Grassroots Suicide Prevention, who offer a lot of mental health training, suicide prevention training, and also provide signposting to people who are in crisis. And I think all of that is really important, because it's okay having services that help people in like extreme crisis, but what about those who are kind of in the middle? Like, what about those who are at the beginning of sort of discovering, oh, I suffer from depression, or I suffer from anxiety? Like, that was one of the things that happened with me. I was having issues, but didn't even really understand what those issues were. And as soon as I understood that I was suffering from anxiety, suffering from depression, it actually made everything kind of a lot easier to understand. So I think providing education supporters is like huge.
Definitely. I want to talk a little bit about the mental health side of things in like league football and what we see on social media a little bit, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. As we're still obviously on the subject of the journey of Mental Health United, have there been any moments over these past, I think it's been about a year now, hasn't it, since you started? What's the most poignant moment you've had? Has there been any moments that have just blown you away? Any stories you've heard? Obviously, we don't expect you to share people's personal stories.
Yeah.
But have there been any for you?
Yeah, like, it's never actually, I mean, there's been like 1 or 2 big moments. So we run charity matches where we play against other teams, and our first game, we were kind of feeling the water and ended up booking a match against a team who were far superior to us, and it was like 8-0 at half time, and it was like, oh god. And then it was as you know, with football, it's like, okay, we're losing 8-0 second half, let's just focus on just the second half, it doesn't matter. And we were 1-0 down, and then like the 90th minute scored like our first ever goal for the club, like against a very good team, and like that in footballing terms was like a pretty amazing moment. And then it's for me, it's the little moments or the little things that people say without, and I think sometimes they say them without really thinking, oh, that's going to have a big impact. Like someone going, you know what, like these sessions are the highlight of my week. They're the thing that get me through the week. Or someone who has moved to the area and been like, you know what, Mental Health United has opened up a whole community, and because of this club I have friends in this area. And if you're someone new to the area, you don't know anyone, how do you make friends, like other than people you work with? And it's very, very tough. So I think it's always those little touches, the little things that people say which are really huge.
Definitely, I can resonate with that. I've had a couple of new people join the Lancing Warriors group over the last few weeks, and they've said what a saviour it's been for them, and they're like as you say, the highlight of their week. And that's just such a touching moment. As you say, they don't realise it makes such an impact, but if someone says that to me, I feel good for the rest of the week, and I just look forward to the next session and to see a smile on their face, and that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, like I'm painting a picture of like all the highs, right? Like I genuinely do have a passion for doing this. I wouldn't have run it for over a year and whatever. There are weeks, there are days where my own mental health is worse than normal, and I'm just like, you know what, I could easily just sort of walk away from this, but the highs massively outweigh the lows.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting what you said, Tim, about people and adults making friends. I'm a teacher, and I often, children make friends so easily. It's, hi, do you like dinosaurs? Yeah, I like dinosaurs. Let's go play together. Whereas adults, we put up all these walls and these barriers. And as someone as myself who's moved 200 miles away from the place I grew up, I found it very difficult to make friends. All of my friends to start with were very much extensions of my wife's friends. But as time's gone on, you become more comfortable in a place, you can start building a community where you can kind of go and be your own person. So I think that's really important, and it's really important that there is a place for people with common interests who can come together and just play football. That's just sounds
yeah.
lovely.
And I think as guys we are very lucky. Like you mentioned the children analogy there. Football is that thing for most guys. Like it's like, oh, you like football? Yes, I like football. Let's sit in the pub and talk for 2 hours. Like it's job done.
Tim, actually, I wanted to ask, what would you say this journey has personally done for you as a whole? Because you've mentioned how it's helped change other people, but like, what's it done for you on a sort of emotional level and what have you?
It's a good question. Not one I think about very often because the wheel just keeps turning. But I think it's shown that I have like this a drive and an ambition, and like that you can build something from nothing very, very quickly. Like I've always been okay with standing up in front of a room and talking and things like that. So that journey hasn't been so much, but certainly that I have like this resilience and the ability to see things through. Like career wise, I've always kind of jumped about a little bit and not quite found what I was looking for. And but there's genuinely something like, can I see myself doing this in 5 years? Like, absolutely. Can I see myself doing this in 10 years? Absolutely. Like, and who knows what it will look like then.
I just wanted to say to him whilst you're here, that I've obviously seen the way you run sessions. I've seen the way you are with people, and it's utterly inspiring. And I really do look up to you. Like it's so good to learn off of you, and to be a part of what you're building and what essentially Lancing Warriors are building as well. Because obviously I had roughly the same idea, a little bit, not quite on the scale that you wanted. I wanted to kick about with mates in the park, but it's just gone up a level when we're competing in the Mental Health United tournament in August, which Albion Obsessed are obviously sponsoring one of the cups. Are you looking forward to that? I can't wait. to get on the grass and play in my first tournament since school.
I think, Joe, thanks for the extremely kind words. It's nice to know that you can inspire people to want to improve those things. And one of the things you said there was like the scale of Mental Health United, and like I never entered this thinking, okay, I'm going to run like with Lancing Warriors 3 sessions a week and cater to like 70 people. I genuinely thought maybe we can get it to 10 people. Like so, and since starting this, like I remember when I started my journey, I had other people from other areas reaching out, who I reached out to, who had started similar projects and picked their brains and got their advice, and that's how we ended up speaking, Joe. And I encourage anyone who, if you're in Brighton, like I don't see this as like we hold the monopoly on mental health in Brighton. If you're in Brighton, if you're in Manchester, if you're in Birmingham and you're thinking about starting a project like this, like just do it. Just absolutely do it. Reach out to me. I can point you to other charities who are further along the road than we are. But I've certainly felt that sort of first year, like you might be in a small community, but the 10 people who will come out and play football every single week, for them, it will be like an essential part of their life. And so if you're sat there thinking about it, just do it, because the rewards are huge.
Amazing. And now, Joe, I'm going to throw one to you. Because as you've mentioned, Mental Health United have partnered with Lancing Warriors. So, Joe, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask you a question about Lancing Warriors, if I may. What made you turn around and go, you know what? I want to start a football club that is inclusive, where people can come and they can play and they can be together. What inspired you? What made you decide make that decision?
Yeah, I think Tim touched on it a little bit earlier about Sunday league football and joining competitive leagues or competitive teams, I guess. Because as Tim rightly said, you're either the best player or you're not, and you're discarded and you get pushed to the side, really. I went to a few of those when I lived back in Hastings with my mum. I went to a few, and the levels were just far, far beyond what I could reach. And I was sat there, I think, watching lockdown football. This is a really strange way of how it came about, but I really liked the lockdown Premier League football, and I ordered it. And it came, and I was like, I want to kick a football again. I had this football just to display, but I just wanted to get out on the park and just kick it around with some friends. And it started with me, Ian, who also is a massive part of running Lancing Warriors and is involved with Mental Health United as well. My dad and my cousin and my cousin's friend. So that's 5 people. Sometimes we had 2 people turn up, and we were just doing tiny little silly shooting drills on the grass in Lancing Monk's Wreck, where we still do the sessions. So, and now we had 17 last week. It just blows my mind, because this tiny little idea that I had, that I can get people out, I can get them fit and mobile again after a torturous lockdown of being stuck inside. And I remember the first little advert I put on the Lancing Facebook group. I put a picture of Lionel Messi. I said, channel your inner Lionel Messi and come and play some post-lockdown football.
Weirdly, I remember this. I remember this picture.
You do?
I think it's one of the first things I saw from you guys.
And we were first called Kickabout to Help Out, to mimic the government scheme of Eat Out to Help Out. And then I thought, yeah, okay, that's a little bit of a gimmick, as I say. And then I got creative. I played around with a badge, and the first thing that came into my head was fighting to make yourself feel better. Warriors, and that's why that's still incorporated with us. And it was really important for me to keep that name. But when we went into Mental Health United, just because it's a reminder for me of how much I fought for myself as well. That might sound a bit selfish, but with your mental health, sometimes you have to be. And yeah, so that's why it was important to me. And it's crazy that somebody else like yourself, Tim, had the same idea, and like you've encouraged so many more people. If you want to do it, just get out there and ask some friends, like 4 friends, and just go and have a kick around. It does so much for you.
Yeah, going back to the child thing, when you were a kid, it'd be like, oh, I want to play football, and you'd go and knock on 4 doors, and you'd be down the park. Like, yeah, as adults, we don't seem to do that, or other things get in the way, right? Like kids and jobs and whatever. It's too easy to be like, I can't be bothered with that this week.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're anything like me as well, it's all, I don't want to bother anyone. I don't want to bother people because they might not want to come for a kickabout down the park with me. But I suppose I always tell myself sometimes you just got to be 10% braver. Be 10% braver. Just ask.
Yeah, and I'd like to think like Joe and I have both proven that. Both of us kind of took the risk and put ourselves out there. And honestly, like there are like I opened Pandora's box when I started this, because there are hundreds of charity teams up and down the country. Like, so even if you don't want to start one, like go on the internet and search for what's in your area. There are charity teams out there for all sorts.
So obviously we've spoken about what we can do for the community, and the journey of both Lancing Warriors and most importantly Mental Health United, who kindly took us on. Let's talk a little bit, Kurtis, about the importance of mental health in football. We've spoken about it a lot, and there's so much social media toxicity that just surrounds us. You're probably going to repeat yourself, as I say, we've spoken about it so much, but how important is it for charities like this, do you feel, to try and eradicate it a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important, because there are individuals sort of like myself who I'm not a particularly sporty boy, let's just say. I mean, it took me a long time to really get into this football malarkey, and it's something that's taken over my life, whether I like it or not. And I found that I could never really fit into the sphere of this, what I assumed to be this really blokey thing, that I felt like I didn't know the vernacular, and I felt like I just couldn't fit in with these individuals, and I couldn't find that space. And I would go onto social media and I'd see, like you say, all this toxicity and stuff, and it was really harmful to see these things about these people who are human beings, you know. And then what helped me a lot was obviously finding you guys. You know, you've made me fall in love with the sport, you know, and to know that people can go to things like, you know, the Lancing Warriors and Mental Health United and things like that, and go there and just play and love it and enjoy their time and talk if they need to, and unwind from like a stressful week, or, you know, after they're dealing with maybe like a really tough thing in their life. I think that's incredibly important. But I think as a whole, we should really sign out of that social media and turn off your computer, turn off your phone for a bit, because it will do you so much good for your mental health, to not read the negativity, and just try and in your own life spread a bit of positivity, because it's just a lot easier, I think.
Exactly that, Kurtis. And we've spoken about it so much, about it affecting the footballers, but we don't really speak about how it affects the fans. As we say, there's so many awful things that are said. Tim, have you had like any experiences where you've witnessed that, or have you? Yeah, what are your thoughts and your takes on it?
I've not really witnessed it within like the professional game. Like one area which I've been following quite closely recently is around like ref abuse, essentially. Like that there is, I know this is on a slight tangent, so please stop me if needed, but there's a massive referee crisis like in this country, and I think globally, which filters all the way down to Sunday League, and it filters all the way through what the referee pyramid looks like. So what the quality of officials we're going to get in the next 10 years. I see instances weekly of refs getting ridiculous levels of abuse. And I'm not talking Premier League referees here. I'm talking Sunday League referees who are reporting, be it like refereeing children's games and parents like threatening to assault them after the game, standing next to their car, level of language all the way through the game. Like, and I think like, and we're seeing referees walk away. Like, and why wouldn't you? You get paid £30 for that. Like, who's going to do that? And I think, what about the mental state of those referees as well? Like, I know county FAs are trying to do as much as they can, but again, what we're actually seeing is imitation. Like, you see a foul in the Premier League, there's 10 players surrounding him. Like, there's, I'm living in the past a bit, but Wayne Rooney effing and blinding in his face. Like, if you're a 15-year-old lad trying to make your way in football, what are you going to emulate? Like, how do you get decisions to sway your way? And I think, yeah, there's different scales of that all the way through. Like, whether you are a player who's getting massacred by people on social media, by the press, by whoever. Like, we see it with England all the time, right? Like, you play bad for England and geez, do not open the paper.
Yeah, you miss a penalty or whatever, and then they're getting death threats, and it's just what I mean about staying away from social media. It's just better for everybody.
Yeah, like the poor lads from the World Cup, Saka, and I can't remember who the other player who missed was, but they said from overnight they went from being English to immigrants. Like, come on, like.
Yeah, it's disgusting to see. You know, the levels people will stoop to in order to, you know, try and. Yeah, it just makes me cross. And just really quickly on the referees, as someone who grew up playing rugby predominantly, it was always a case of you didn't talk to the ref. Only the captains would go and speak to the referee. And I've said it before on this podcast, and I'll say it again. I think that football in general can learn an awful lot from rugby, especially in regards to the respect rugby players show towards the referee. I totally understand that, like, in the heat of the moment, you know, as a spectator and as a player, you know, you get angry, you get cross, but, you know, it's okay to feel that anger, but it's not okay to, you know, abuse another human being who's fundamentally there to do a job. And as you say, Tim, if they're refereeing, you know, grassroots football, they're not getting paid much at all. And as you say, no one is paid enough money to get, you know, screamed at in the face or have, you know, threats made to them. So that's just not acceptable behavior.
No, exactly that, Tom. We've spoken about a lot of heavy things today. So let's talk a little bit of positivity. So if somebody's feeling this way and wants to get out and wants to try and help themselves, Tim, how do they go about joining us, I guess, as we're a collective unit now?
Yeah, we're kind of across all the social medias, so I won't reel them off, but the easiest way is to go to mentalhealthunited.co.uk. There are a ton of links on there. Follow from there, navigate to our Facebook group, navigate to our Twitter, send you guys a message who can help join the dots. As I said, we host sessions on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and then Lancing Warriors are on Sundays. So we have like a nice spread of sessions, which hopefully fit around most people's work schedules. So there's definitely a session out there for someone.
Very exciting stuff. And Tim, just before we bring the show to an end, if you just had one piece of advice for someone out there who's perhaps feeling a tad, you know, down on themselves, who's not feeling in the best place, you know, could you just offer? I'm not asking you for counselling, obviously, but like, is there something you could say as a way to sort of like motivate or to re-energize them?
Yeah, I think tell someone, it's okay. I'm stealing a saying from another club that I know, but it's okay to not be okay. Like, a lot of the time you feel, oh, I'm the only person feeling like this. No one will understand. And maybe they won't understand exactly how you're feeling in that moment because only you feel your emotions. But tell someone. And what I found with my own mental health is I don't run around screaming off the rooftops, but every single person who I share my journey with, and I find they understand me a bit better, and they understand the rises and the falls and everything in between. And honestly, just talk to someone. It's the hardest but the easiest thing to do in the world.
So, Tim, just deviating a little bit slightly here. What does the future look like for Mental Health United? Where do you see the club in 10 years' time, for instance?
So a lot of the stuff that we've done, we've actually modelled off a club called SANS. Sands is a charity that supports families who have dealt with stillbirths and deaths of young children, particularly supporting men in that area. So Sands United, Brighton are like one of my big inspirations. Sands have teams all over the country who they're more competitive. They play more competitive football. But I would love to scale Mental Health United to follow that model. So if you're feeling like, you know what, I'm not very good at branding, or I'm not very good at design, but I know a bit about football, like, but you're in, I don't know, Birmingham. And you're like, I'd like to start a Mental Health United Birmingham. Let's have a conversation, because we have a lot of those things in place now. Can we get 2 or 3 cities in terms of what can we do in Brighton? I think we're going to continue the sessions. Maybe we end up with more sessions as it continues to grow. Like, I think my bigger ambition a little while ago was that there's a session every single night of the week, maybe afternoon sessions, because not everyone works a 9 till 5. And maybe somewhere along the line, we do end up with a competitive arm, because I do have people coming up to me with that sort of desire, and that opens up other opportunities. And yeah, and I think working more closely with local FAs, local charities, and just generally trying to reach more people. Like, we've reached a lot of people, but there are even more who need this.
Definitely. And just before we come to it, just before Tom closes the show, because he does it so beautifully, looking forward, obviously we've got this competition in August, which, as I say, I haven't played in a tournament since year 6. So yeah, watch out for that one, because that's going to be a laugh.
Joe hat-trick incoming. Joe hat-trick incoming. You wait.
I wish, mate. I can't even score on the Sunday sessions, mate. So,
so just if I can give that a little plug.
Yeah, of course.
So you guys are obviously sponsoring one of our trophies, which is fantastic. So we've got Mental Health United plus a select invitation of local teams, some who play competitive, some who are other charity projects. And on the 6th of August, from like 10:30 in the morning till 4 p.m, we're going to be at Brighton Uni at the back of the Amex. We've got coffee trucks, ice cream vans, beat the goalie type competitions. It's slowly turning into a big family day out. So if people want to come down and watch a bit of football, laugh at a bit of terrible football, cheer at some amazing football, it'd be great for people to come down. And any profits that we make on the day are going to go to grassroots suicide prevention. So even if you come down and just spend a couple of quid, it will make a difference to people's lives.
Always, there's a bit of a story. I say a story. My old head teacher always used to say this thing about, there was this man walking along a beach and he came across a child throwing starfish back into the ocean. There was loads of them. They were all on the sand. The child's throwing starfish back on the ocean, and we're talking hundreds of them. And the adult says to the child, what are you doing? And the child says, I'm putting the starfish back in the ocean. So the adult looks around and says, there's too many, you'll never make a difference. Picks up one, throws one, and says, it's made a difference to that one. It's amazing what people can do when they come together. And thank you, Tim, for demonstrating that in Mental Health United. Thank you, Joe, for demonstrating that in the Lancing Warriors, because be under no illusions, guys, you do make a difference to people's lives. And I'm sure there will be people out there who, as you say, will turn around and say, you know what? The night I went to Mental Health United, the Sunday I went to Lancing Warriors, that was the highlight of my week. I was having a tough day, a tough week, and that made me feel better. So, boys, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you, Tim, for coming on to the show and chatting to us. It's been a really fascinating, 45 minutes chatting with you. It's been great, mate. So, again, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best for the future. Really looking forward to coming down in the summer and playing some football with you, Joe, at Lancing Warriors. And yeah, you can all see how awful I am, but I try. And on that bombshell, we say a massive thank you to Joe, Kurtis, and again to you, Tim, for joining us on the show today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to check out Mental Health United and the Lancing Warriors on socials. Go give them a follow. Go and see what they're getting up to. And lastly, from me, as Tim said, it's okay not to be okay. Always remember there are people out there who will gladly listen to you if you ever want to chat, and we're some of them. Take it easy, guys. Have a lovely evening, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.